my son's new wife threw away my things, including the $2 million bond. Hidden inside the movers were already loading my mother's china cabinet into the truck when I walked into what used to be my living room. My son Michael standing there with his new wife Ashley, both of them watching like vultures as strangers packed away 42 years of my life. "Mom, you're supposed to be at the facility for your evaluation," Michael said, not even looking at me, just checking his Rolex, the one I'd given him for his 30th birthday. But here's the thing about being 71 and supposedly suffering from dementia. Sometimes the best revenge is letting them think they've already won. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me back up and tell you how my own flesh and blood tried to have me declared incompetent, steal my house, and throw away everything I owned, including a bearer bond worth $2 million they didn't know existed. 6 months ago, everything changed. Michael had just married Ashley, a 34-year-old real estate agent with perfectly white teeth and a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. I'd been living alone since Harold died 3 years prior, managing just fine in our 4-bedroom colonial on Maple Street. The house was paid off. I had $847,000 in savings, plus investments Harold had made over 40 years in the pharmaceutical industry. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday morning in March. Ashley showed up unannounced while I was having my coffee and reading the newspaper. Yes, the actual paper newspaper, which apparently marked me as dangerously out of touch. "Mom," she said, though I'd asked her to call me Dorothy, "Michael and I are worried about you living here all alone. This house is so big, and at your age—" "At my age what?" So I set down my coffee cup, the one from Harold's and my trip to Venice, the one with the tiny chip on the handle that I loved anyway. "Well, you're forgetting things. Last week you called Michael Harold at dinner." Once. I'd done it once, and I'd immediately corrected myself. But that single slip became the cornerstone of their case against me. Here's the thing about adult children who want your money. They start documenting everything. Every forgotten name, every repeated story, every time you can't find your reading glasses. They frame it as concern, but it's evidence gathering. 3 weeks later, Michael sat me down in my own kitchen. The kitchen where I'd made his birthday cakes for 38 years, where I'd helped him with homework, where I'd held him while he cried over his first heartbreak, and told me they'd found a wonderful assisted living facility called Golden Meadows. "It's for your own good, Mom. You'll have people to talk to, activities, medical care when you need it." "I have medical care. Dr. Patterson has been my doctor for 20 years. "Mom, Dr. Patterson retired 18 months ago." He hadn't. I'd seen him just the previous week for my annual checkup, but Michael had already started building his narrative, and contradicting him only made me look more confused. The next month was a masterclass in gaslighting. They'd move things in my house and act concerned when I couldn't find them. They'd tell me about conversations we'd never had. Ashley once spent 20 minutes insisting I'd agreed to sell the house, showing me a reminder she'd supposedly written for me in handwriting that looked nothing like mine. But the worst part? They'd gotten to my daughter Jennifer. Jennifer lived in Seattle with her husband Tom and my 2 grandchildren. We talked every Sunday, had since she'd moved away 8 years ago. But suddenly she was calling daily, her voice tight with worry. "Mom, Michael says you left the stove on all night." "I didn't, sweetheart. I haven't even cooked this week. I've been eating at Murphy's Diner mostly." "Mom, Murphy's closed 2 years ago." It hadn't. I'd had their meatloaf special just that afternoon. But how do you prove you're not crazy when everyone's convinced you are? The breaking point came in May. I woke up at 2 a.m. to find Ashley in my bedroom, going through my jewelry box. "What are you doing?" She didn't even flinch. "Oh, Mom, you called us. You were frightened, don't you remember? You said someone was in the house." "I didn't call anyone." Michael appeared in the doorway. "Mom, you did. Look." He showed me his phone, a missed call from my number at 1:47 a.m. I knew I hadn't made that call. My phone was downstairs in the kitchen where I always left it charging overnight. But there it was, proof that I was confused, afraid, paranoid. The next morning, they had papers. Power of attorney documents, they said, just in case. The lawyer, a nervous young man named Bradley who kept adjusting his tie, assured me it was standard procedure for someone my age. I'm not signing anything. Mom, Michael's voice took on that tone I recognized from his teenage years, the one he used when he thought I was being unreasonable. If you won't help us help you, we'll have to pursue other options. Other options meant a competency hearing. Ashley had already been in touch with a psychiatrist, Dr. Melissa Graves, who specialized in elder care evaluations. Funny how quickly they could get an appointment when others waited months. I met with Dr. Graves 3 times. Each session, she'd ask me the same questions. What year is it? Who's the president? Count backwards from 100 by 7s. I answered everything correctly, but she'd frown and make notes. Mrs. Patterson, your family is very concerned. They've documented numerous incidents of confusion, memory loss, paranoid thinking. They're lying. She gave me that look, the one that said, that's exactly what someone with paranoia would say. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't as alone as they thought. My neighbor, Edgar Hoffman, had been watching everything. Edgar was 83, a Korean War veteran who'd lost his wife the same year I lost Harold. We'd developed a friendship over early morning walks and afternoon tea. He'd seen Ashley sneaking into my house when I wasn't home. He'd heard Michael on the phone in my driveway, talking about property values and quick sales. Dorothy, he said one afternoon in early June, you need to protect yourself. My nephew is a lawyer in the city. A real lawyer, not like that boy they brought to your house. Edgar's nephew, James Hoffman, specialized in elder law and had seen this exact scenario dozens of times. Mrs. Patterson, they're planning to have you declared incompetent. Once that happens, they control everything. We need to act fast. We set up a trust, moving most of my liquid assets where Michael and Ashley couldn't touch them. But I kept enough in my regular accounts that they wouldn't get suspicious. Then James told me something that changed everything. Let them think they're winning. In fact, we're going to help them win. But we're going to document everything they do. Every lie, every theft, every forged document. Forged? Mrs. Patterson, that signature on the power of attorney papers? We had it analyzed. It's not yours. The evaluation was scheduled for June 15th. The night before, Ashley and Michael came to the house. They were already discussing renovations, not even bothering to whisper. We'll gut the kitchen, obviously, Ashley said. These cabinets are from the 70s. 60s, actually, I said from the doorway. Harold installed them himself when we first moved in. They had the decency to look embarrassed. For about 2 seconds. Mom, you should be resting for tomorrow. Hard to rest with people planning to destroy my home. Michael's face hardened. It won't be your home much longer. After tomorrow, you'll be somewhere safe, where you can get the help you need. And you'll get the money you need. That's not what this is about. No? Then why did Ashley have a real estate agent here last week? Why is she already picking out paint colors? Why did you tell your friend Dave that you'd have a down payment for that boat by July? You're paranoid, Mom. This is exactly why. Why you need to steal from your mother. Ashley stepped forward, and for a moment, the mask slipped completely. You're sitting on a gold mine, living in the past, hoarding money that could actually be used. Michael works 60-hour weeks and can barely afford his mortgage, while you're here with your newspaper and your coffee cups, pretending the world hasn't moved on. So yes, we're going to take control because you clearly can't handle it anymore. Get out of my house. Enjoy it while you can, Ashley said. One more night. But here's the thing about underestimating old women. We've had decades to learn patience, and we've seen enough to know that the truth always comes out eventually. The evaluation was a farce. Dr. Graves had clearly already made up her mind. She asked me about recent events, and when I mentioned the break-in, she marked it down as paranoid delusion. When I said my son was trying to steal from me, she noted it as financial paranoia common in elder dementia. Mrs. Patterson, do you understand why your family is concerned? I understand they want my money. That's a very serious accusation. It's a very serious crime. She recommended immediate placement in a supervised facility and agreed that Michael should have full power of attorney. The judge, a tired-looking man who barely glanced at me, approved everything in less than 10 minutes. I was given 3 days to transition, 3 days to pack up a lifetime, except I wouldn't be doing the packing. Ashley had already hired a company to help, which brings us back to where I started, standing in my living room on June 18th, watching strangers handle my possessions like they were garbage. "The bedroom's mostly done," one of the movers told Ashley. "Just some old boxes in the closet. Should we toss them?" "Toss everything. We're doing a complete renovation." Those boxes contained Harold's war medals, our wedding album, and something else. Something Harold had hidden away decades ago. A bearer bond from 1961 worth $2 million. He'd inherited it from his father and kept it as our ultimate emergency fund, hidden in a box of worthless old papers. I watched them throw it in the donation pile. "Actually," I said, "could I have that box?" "Just some old letters." Ashley laughed. "Mom, you need to let go of the past. Where you're going, you won't have room for clutter." But here's what Ashley and Michael didn't know. I'd already been to Golden Meadows, not as a patient, but as a visitor, 3 months earlier, with James Hoffman. We documented their violations: understaffing, medication errors, financial irregularities. The place was being investigated by the state. I also wasn't going there alone. Edgar had decided to come with me, not as a patient, but as my companion. At Golden Meadows, you could pay extra for a suite with a companion. Edgar and I had worked out a plan. "This is ridiculous," Michael said when he saw Edgar helping me into his car. "Mom, you can't just bring your boyfriend to the facility." "He's not my boyfriend. He's my friend, and he's paying his own way." What Michael didn't know was that Edgar was recording everything. The small camera in his lapel pin had caught Ashley's confession the night before, Michael discussing the sale of my house with his realtor buddy, and now their frustration that I wasn't going quietly. Golden Meadows was exactly as depressing as expected. Beige walls, industrial carpeting, the smell of disinfectant and cafeteria food. My suite was 2 rooms and a bathroom, smaller than my garage. "Home sweet home," Ashley said with false brightness. "We'll visit soon." They didn't. For 2 weeks, Edgar and I documented everything. The facility administrator, Janet Colson, was skimming from patient accounts. The head nurse was selling medications, and my son had received a $50,000 referral fee for placing me there. But more importantly, those 2 weeks gave James Hoffman time to work. The boxes Ashley had thrown away. The donation company was run by James's cousin. Every single item was carefully cataloged and stored. The bearer bond was safe. The house sale Michael rushed through. Invalid. He'd used the forged power of attorney, and we had proof. The buyers, who'd been told I was mentally incompetent, were furious when they learned the truth. On July 2nd, everything came crashing down for Michael and Ashley. FBI agents arrived at Golden Meadows, not for me, but for Janet Colson. The facility was shut down immediately, all patients relocated. Edgar and I walked out free, no longer bound by any custody orders since the facility no longer existed. Michael got the call while he was at work. His mother was missing from Golden Meadows. He rushed to my house, where he found me sitting in my kitchen, having coffee from my Venice cup, reading my newspaper. "Mom?" "What? How are you here?" "Oh, hello, Michael. Fancy seeing you. Though I suppose it's not my kitchen anymore, is it? You sold it." "The sale isn't final yet." "Mom, you need to go back to Golden Meadows. It's closed. FBI raid this morning. Apparently there was massive Medicare fraud. They're looking at everyone involved, including people who took kickbacks for referrals." His face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No? That's strange. They seemed very interested in a $50,000 deposit to your account from Janet Colson." Ashley arrived 20 minutes later, screeching into the driveway in her white BMW. "What the hell is going on? The house sale fell through. The buyers are threatening to sue." "Oh dear," I said. "That sounds stressful. Would you like some coffee?" "We had power of attorney. Everything was legal." James Hoffman chose that moment to arrive, along with 2 police officers. "Actually, Mrs. Patterson, Excuse me, Miss Crawford. You never actually married Michael, did you? Just living together? Anyway, the power of attorney was forged. We have the original documents, handwriting analysis, and video evidence of you discussing the forgery with Mr. Bradley Simmons, who's already been arrested and is cooperating fully. The police officers stepped forward. Ashley Crawford, Michael Patterson, you're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit theft. Mom. Michael turned to me, his face desperate. Mom, please, tell them this is a mistake. Oh, Michael. I stood up, walked over to him. You threw away your father's war medals. You threw away our wedding album. You threw away 42 years of Christmas ornaments, each one with a story. But mostly you threw away your mother. Like garbage, you said to Dave. Just need to take out the old garbage, then we can renovate. I didn't mean, and you threw away something else. A bearer bond worth $2 million. Your father's emergency fund for me, in case anything happened to him. Ashley's face went from pale to green. What? Where? In those worthless old boxes you had tossed. Don't worry, though. James's cousin runs a very thorough donation service. Everything was cataloged and saved, including the bond, which I've already cashed. As they were led away, Michael kept looking back at me, as if seeing me for the first time. Not as his confused elderly mother, but as the woman who'd raised him, who'd built a life with his father, who'd survived their betrayal and come out stronger. Jennifer arrived from Seattle that evening. She'd been on a plane the moment James called her with the truth. She cried for an hour, apologizing over and over. They were so convincing, Mom, the things they said, the evidence they showed me. I know, sweetheart, they were very good at what they did, but they forgot one thing. What's that? Blood is thicker than water, but apparently not thicker than money. They got so focused on the money, they forgot I had friends, real friends like Edgar. They forgot I had a brain that's worked just fine for 71 years. And they forgot that your father and I didn't survive 40 years of marriage and raise 2 kids by being pushovers. Michael was sentenced to 3 years in prison for elder abuse and fraud. Ashley got 5 years. Turns out this wasn't her first time. She'd done the same thing to her own grandmother in Florida. The house sale was reversed. I still live here, in my 4-bedroom colonial on Maple Street. Edgar comes by every morning for coffee and newspaper reading. We're not romantic. At our age, companionship is worth more than romance. But we're planning a cruise to Alaska next month, something Harold and I never got to do. I used part of the bond money to set up trusts for my grandchildren, accessible only for education. The rest went to organizations fighting elder abuse. Michael won't get a penny when I'm gone, though Jennifer will be well taken care of. I've learned to video call my grandkids. Turns out I'm not as technologically hopeless as my son thought. I even have one of those doorbell cameras now. Can't be too careful. Dr. Patterson, yes, my doctor who'd supposedly retired, told me last week that I'm in excellent health. My mind is sharp, my blood pressure is controlled, and I should have many good years ahead. But here's what I really learned from all this. They thought I was just a helpless old woman. They saw my gray hair, my reading glasses, my routine of coffee and newspapers, and they thought, easy target. They forgot that this helpless old woman had raised them, had managed a household while Harold traveled for work, had navigated the death of my parents, my husband, had survived breast cancer at 58, had learned to use a computer at 65, had kept every receipt and document for 40 years just in case. At my age, you're supposed to slow down, to hand over the reins, to trust your children to take care of you. But when your children are the ones you need protection from, you learn that 71 isn't too old to fight back. It's just old enough to know how. The other day, I got a letter from Michael in prison. He wanted forgiveness, said he'd found God, that Ashley had manipulated him. Maybe she did. Maybe he's genuinely sorry. But sorry doesn't bring back trust. Sorry doesn't erase the image of strangers pawing through my wedding china. Sorry doesn't undo the moment my own son looked at me like I was nothing more than an obstacle to his inheritance. I wrote him back. I told him I forgive him because holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. He's not welcome in my home, not welcome in my life. When he gets out, he'll have to build his own life, with his own money, by his own efforts, just like his father and I did. Jennifer asked me if I'm lonely, with Michael gone, with the family split. The truth is, I'm less lonely now than I was when they were plotting against me. I have Edgar, I have James Hoffman who still checks in. I have the Murphys at the diner who testified on my behalf. I have Dr. Patterson who never doubted my sanity. I have my Tuesday book club ladies who were ready to storm Golden Meadows and break me out themselves. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who see you, really see you, not as a bank account or an obstacle, but as a person with stories and dreams and value beyond monetary worth. At 71, I've learned to choose my family, and I choose the ones who chose me when I needed them most. The bond money could have made me rich, but I was already rich in ways Michael never understood. Rich in memories, in genuine friendships, in the knowledge that I could stand on my own 2 feet, even when my own children tried to knock me down. That's wealth you can't steal, can't forge documents to obtain, can't throw in a donation box. Sometimes I drive by Golden Meadows, now shuttered and for sale. I think about the 2 weeks I spent there, how close I came to spending my remaining years in that beige prison. Then I drive home, to my house with Harold's kitchen cabinets and my Venice coffee cup, and I make myself a pot of coffee, sit down with my newspaper, and enjoy the simple pleasure of being free, being home, being vindicated. They thought they'd won. They thought I was confused, helpless, ready to be discarded. They thought wrong. At 71, I'm not done yet. Not by a long shot. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.